Late afternoon in Savannah, Georgia, the golden-orange sunlight fell through the moss-draped oaks of Forsyth Park Square, stretching into long streaks across the cobblestone ground. In a small corner, at the low table of River Street Sweets Bakery, a young woman sat quietly before a simple white birthday cake. Camille Walker, her eyes heavy with sorrow, sat motionless in her wheelchair, the flickering flames of 22 candles reflecting upon her face. It was her birthday, yet no one was there with her. The shop door chimed softly. Ding! A man stepped inside, his hands calloused from wood and nails, followed by his little daughter with soft, curly hair, clutching tightly a small gift box. Caleb Monroe, a widowed carpenter, and his 6-year-old daughter, Maya. The child paused, her bright eyes turning toward Camille, then gently tugged at her father's sleeve. Amid the sweet fragrance of caramel and butter, a voice rose, breaking the silence of loneliness. "Excuse me. May we sit with you?" Camille lifted her head, her gaze unexpectedly meeting the gentle face of Caleb and the pure smile of Maya. That very moment, seemingly ordinary, would become the beginning of a story destined to shake the ancient mansion of the Walker family. In the old southern mansion of Savannah, Georgia, where once lavish soirees hosted by grandparents had filled the halls, now only the sound of wheelchair wheels echoed across the mahogany floors. Camille Walker, 22, sat motionless by the tall window, her eyes gazing out at the moss-covered garden left untended. Sunlight filtered through worn lace curtains, falling upon her soft black hair, yet it could not dispel the cold emptiness within her soul. 4 years earlier, a car accident had taken Camille's legs. Since then, her father, William Walker, the powerful CEO of a technology conglomerate in Savannah, had buried himself in work more than ever. He hired nurses, doctors, and the best rehabilitation specialists. He turned the mansion into a medical fortress. But what Camille needed most, he could not give: the presence of a father. On her birthdays, Camille received only hurried text messages. "Happy birthday, my daughter," and a transfer of money into her account. To William, that was his way of atoning for his absence. But to Camille, every number on the screen only deepened a bitter truth. She did not need money, she needed love. Meanwhile, just a few miles away in Savannah's working-class outskirts, Caleb Monroe, a 30-year-old widowed carpenter, toiled in his small workshop on Williamsburg Road. The air was thick with the scent of pine and oak. Resin mingled with the sweat of a man who had devoted his life to restoring what was broken. On the workbench lay an old wooden chair, its long crack patiently mended by Caleb with small wooden wedges. His calloused hands moved slowly, carefully, as if healing wounds within himself. He often told his 6-year-old daughter, Maya, "See, wood is like people. It has cracks. It breaks in places you'd think are beyond repair. But if you know how to look, how to sand, how to join, it can become stronger and more beautiful than before." Maya sat drawing beside a pile of wood scraps, her bright eyes fixed on her father. She had never known her mother, for Sarah, Caleb's wife, had died giving birth to her. Yet with her father's love, Maya grew up with a heart full of empathy. She often told neighborhood friends, "Daddy can fix everything, even a broken heart." In the Walker mansion, Camille lived like a golden prisoner, her father burying himself in million-dollar contracts to avoid facing the truth that his daughter was no longer the same. In the small suburban workshop, Caleb transformed discarded wood into objects with souls, teaching his daughter that loss was not an ending, but the beginning of something new. Two worlds, one wealthy yet lonely, the other modest yet warm, existed side by side. But in one late afternoon at River Street Sweets Bakery, they would collide and change everything. That afternoon, the last light of day poured down upon the old red brick rooftops of Savannah's Riverside district. The River Street Sweets Bakery bustled with the scent of caramel, butter, and freshly baked pecan candy. The little doorbell chimed each time a customer entered, but in one corner the scene remained strangely still. Camille Walker sat alone before a small white cake, 22 candles flickering in the air, with no one to offer her a single birthday wish. For the past 4 years, ever since the accident, her birthdays had always been the same. Quiet, cold, marked only by a cake for the sake of formality, and a curt message from her father. "Happy birthday, my daughter." The bell rang again. A tall man with calloused, wood-stained hands stepped inside, accompanied by his little daughter with soft curls and bright eyes. Caleb Monroe, a widowed carpenter, and his 6-year-old girl, Maya. Caleb often brought his daughter here on special occasions, as a way of connecting the threads of memory with the present. Maya quickly noticed Camille sitting alone. The child's eyes showed a fleeting sadness before she tugged at her father's sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, she's sitting all by herself with a birthday cake. Can we sit with her?" Caleb followed his daughter's gaze and saw a young woman, her beautiful face shadowed by deep loneliness. In that moment, his eyes recognized something familiar, the same look he often saw in the mirror whenever Sarah crossed his mind. He gave a small nod. He approached gently, his voice deep and warm, careful not to startle her. "Excuse me. May we sit with you? My daughter wants to wish you a happy birthday." Camille lifted her head, her dazed eyes meeting Caleb's kind gaze and Maya's radiant smile. Before she could answer, Maya placed a small cupcake on the table. On its frosting stood a single candle shaped like a star. "My name is Maya," the girl introduced, her voice pure and clear. "Daddy and I made this morning. Today is also my mommy's birthday. But Mommy is in heaven. Daddy says, if I light a candle here, Mommy can still see it." Those innocent words pierced through the wall Camille had built around herself for 4 long years. Her throat tightened. When Maya began singing Happy Birthday in a slightly off-key voice, Caleb joined in with his deep baritone, and suddenly the entire bakery seemed to glow. Other patrons turned their heads and smiled, but Camille no longer noticed anything around her. The world shrank to that small table, a carpenter with gentle, sorrowful eyes, and a child brimming with innocence and light. The candle went out. Camille closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she dared to make a simple wish. "May I never have to be alone again." Caleb smiled softly, his gaze warm as if he had just recognized something precious. "The cake is beautiful. But no one should ever eat their birthday cake alone, right?" In that moment, Camille was no longer the Walker heiress imprisoned in her cold mansion. She was a young woman, trembling as she learned to open her heart. And across from her was a man with hands that knew how to mend what was broken. Not only wood, but perhaps her very own heart. In the weeks following that fateful meeting at River Street Sweets, Camille's life suddenly began to change. She started leaving the Walker mansion more often, seeking out corners of Savannah where sunlight filtered through the old oaks draped in green moss. At Forsyth Park, Camille often sat on a stone bench while Maya Monroe ran around the ducks by the fountain, her tiny hands tossing bits of bread with bursts of laughter. Beside her, Caleb Monroe sat quietly. He did not speak much, but his silence was not heavy like William Walker's. It was the silence of someone who knew how to listen, giving Camille the freedom to open her heart. At first, they spoke only of simple things: the weather, the books Camille was reading, Maya's little mischiefs. But gradually, the conversations grew deeper. Camille spoke of the accident, her voice steady as if reciting a report, but her eyes contained a storm long suppressed. She recalled the moment she was thrown from the car, then waking to see her father standing there, his face cold as stone, his hand gripping a pen to sign medical papers as though it were a business deal, not the trembling hand of a father at his daughter's bedside. Caleb listened, his rough hands clasped tightly together on his knees. Then he told Camille about Sarah, his wife, who had died giving birth to Maya. He spoke not with torment or bitterness, but as though he were a piece of wood smoothed by time. He remembered how Sarah had once painted murals in their small apartment, forests full of colors, so that Maya could one day grow up surrounded by imagination. "That workshop," Caleb said, pointing to his calloused hands, "that's where I learned how to live with pain. When wood cracks, you have to join it, mend it. It never becomes exactly the same as before, but sometimes the cracks are what make it special. I think people are the same." Camille looked at him for a long time. In those eyes, she saw no pity, none of the cautious looks she had grown so used to. Only recognition. And Maya never let sadness linger. She often interrupted with her miraculous innocence, insisting Camille play flying wheelchair by pretending to steer with her arms, or gifting her clumsy drawings of the three of them together as a little family. Each time Maya asked, "Miss Camille, are you happy today?" Camille's heart softened. One afternoon, Caleb invited Camille to his workshop on the outskirts of town. The small shop, with its low ceiling and yellow light cast from industrial lamps, was filled with the smell of resin and the hum of saws. Caleb placed a rough piece of walnut wood into Camille's hands. "Feel this. It's beautiful wood, but at first glance, it just looks rough. I'm making a picture frame for Maya. Life is the same. It takes time to see the beauty inside." Camille ran her fingers along the grain, tracing every curve, every ridge. In that moment, she found herself whispering, "Maybe I'm just a broken piece of wood, waiting for someone to mend me." Caleb lifted his gaze, his eyes earnest. "No, Camille. You don't need to be fixed. You just need to be seen and loved, cracks and all." And in that moment, amidst the sound of saws and the scent of new wood, Camille felt as though her heart, long thought to have turned to stone, was beginning to sprout again. The news did not reach William Walker from his daughter, but from the loyal servants in the old mansion. They whispered to him that Camille had gone out many times, that she was seen with a strange man and a small child. A few photos from the private detective he had hired showed Camille sitting in Forsyth Park, smiling at a man in a work shirt stained with wood dust, while a child ran around her wheelchair. William tightened the file in his hands, his cold gray-blue eyes hardening. He sat in his study, its walls lined with portraits of ancestors, the desk lamp casting light across the polished ebony desk, reflecting his tense face. To outsiders, William was a CEO who never let emotions interfere with decisions. But now, what he was trying hardest to deny was precisely his own emotion. Deep inside, he felt a stab of pain. The daughter who had once been his pride was now leaning on someone beneath her. He whispered to himself, "Camille, you don't understand the world out there. People will take advantage of you. You are fragile, vulnerable. I cannot let this continue." But immediately after, another thought intruded. Or was it because he himself had neglected her for too long? William quickly pushed it away, covering it with reason. He pressed the bell and ordered the butler, "Call Camille into the library at once. I need to speak with her." Camille wheeled herself into the vast room, its high ceiling, and the scent of old leather sofas surrounding her. William did not look at his daughter right away, his eyes still fixed on the laptop screen flashing with stock market charts. "You will end this immediately," his voice rang out, cold as an executive order. "That man, who is he? A poor carpenter, a widower, dragging along a child. What else could he want from you but the wealth of the Walker family?" Camille froze, then let out a bitter laugh. "Have you ever thought? Maybe they came to me because I am a person, not because I am a Walker?" William lifted his head. His eyes flickered with anger, but buried deep within was fear. Fear of losing her. Fear that Camille would find in that man what he could not give. Presence. Warmth. "You are too naive." William's fists clenched, his voice tightening. "You have lived in this house too long. You have no idea how ruthless the outside world is. He will destroy you, Camille. I would rather you hate me than watch you be used." Camille met her father's eyes, hers blazing. "No, you're not protecting me. You're protecting yourself. From helplessness. From the pain of seeing me in this chair. But do you know something? I would rather feel real pain than live as a prisoner in my own home." The room sank into silence. William slowly rose, his tall frame trembling for an instant. He stepped closer, his voice lowered like a plea, yet still edged with command. "Camille, listen to me. If you don't end this, I will destroy him. His workshop, his life. I can crush them in a single day. Do you want to bear that weight?" Camille felt her throat tighten. She knew he wasn't bluffing. William Walker had toppled opponents 10 times stronger than Caleb. Her heart wrenched at the thought of Caleb and Maya being pulled into her father's storm of power. That night, in her darkened room, Camille trembled as she held her phone, typing each word. "I'm sorry. I can't see you anymore. Please don't contact me. Camille." The message was sent. On her face, tears fell like blades. But the most painful part was not the loss of a love just beginning to bloom. It was that, once again, she was forced to choose loneliness in order to protect the only people who had truly seen her for who she was. Camille's short message reached Caleb late at night. He sat alone in his workshop, yellow light falling over his calloused hands. On the table lay an unfinished walnut picture frame, the gift he had planned to give Camille at their next meeting. Every word on the phone screen cut like a blade. "I'm sorry. I can't see you anymore. Please don't contact me. Camille?" Caleb read it over and over, hoping his eyes had mistaken it. But no. His breath grew heavy. He set the phone down and buried his face in his hands. The smell of wood, the sound of saws, everything in the familiar shop suddenly became an ache. When Maya woke in the middle of the night and saw her father sitting motionless in the dark, she climbed softly onto his lap, her innocent voice asking, "Daddy, why do you look so sad? Is it because Miss Camille doesn't want to play with us anymore?" Caleb held her tightly, struggling to steady his voice. "Miss Camille said, 'We can't see each other anymore, sweetheart.'" Maya was silent for a long time, her eyes brimming with tears. Then she whispered, "But I know she loves us. I saw her real smile when she was with us. She wasn't pretending 3 heavy days passed. Caleb could barely work. Every cracked piece of wood on his bench reminded him of Camille's heart. And his own. Maya laughed less, no longer sang around the shop. Their once warm little home felt suffocating, like a deep cellar. On the fourth day, Maya looked at her father with rare determination. "Daddy, if Miss Camille doesn't come to us, then we have to go to her. She needs us. If not, she'll be sad forever." Caleb hesitated for a moment, then his eyes lit up. He could not let his daughter grow up believing that love was measured by money or power. He nodded. "You're right. We'll go see Camille." That afternoon, father and daughter stopped outside the Walker mansion. The grand building, draped in green moss, stood with ancient oaks stretching their branches as if to conceal the coldness within. The iron gates loomed, separating William Walker's world from the rest. Caleb pressed his lips together, forcing restraint. He knew that to confront William's power directly was like stepping into a pit. He placed a hand on Maya's shoulder, but before he could stop her, the girl pressed her face to the bars, her tear-filled eyes glistening as she cried out, "Miss Camille! Miss Camille, I miss you. Please don't leave me." The innocent call echoed through the stillness of the garden. Caleb stood behind her, his gaze brimming with helplessness, yet he did not stop her. Because he knew, sometimes only a child's innocence could break through walls of ice. Upstairs, in her room, Camille sat motionless, staring at the blank phone screen. When the clear voice rang through her window, she froze. Her chest tightened. She wheeled herself quickly toward the window. In the courtyard, she saw Caleb and Maya. Caleb stood silently, his hand resting on his daughter's shoulder. Maya kept calling her name, her voice hoarse but full of longing. A tremor shook through Camille's body. For years she had obeyed her father, lived in silence, chosen loneliness in exchange for safety. But seeing them now, she understood. Protecting Caleb and Maya from William's wrath meant nothing, if it killed the hearts of all three. Tears burst from Camille's eyes. She wiped them away, her gaze suddenly blazing like a flame rekindled. That night, the Walker mansion lay shrouded in dim yellow light. Long carpeted corridors stretched in silence, lined with portraits of stern-faced ancestors whose gazes seemed to follow Camille's every move. She sat motionless in her room, her heart still echoing with Maya Monroe's cries outside the iron gates that afternoon. Each word, each sob from the little girl cut through the shell her father had built around her life. Her father, William Walker, believed he could restrain his daughter with money and threats. But what he did not understand was that the pure affection of a child and the honest eyes of a carpenter had planted in Camille a strength she had not believed herself capable of for 4 years. She decided, "I can't stay here any longer. I have to choose." Camille turned her wheelchair toward the dark hallway, quietly passing through half-closed doors. She did not use the main entrance, where her father and the guards could easily stop her. Instead, she chose the service stairway leading down to the kitchen, a path she had known since childhood, sneaking down for sweets. In the kitchen, Maria, the cook who had served the family since Camille was a child, looked up and saw the determined face of the young woman. Without a single question, Maria only gave a faint nod, pushed the back door wide open, and whispered, "Be happy, mija. Run, and don't look back." Outside, heavy rain poured down over Savannah. The scent of damp earth mixed with jasmine from the garden, bearing witness to her first moment of freedom after years of captivity. The wheels clattered against wet cobblestones, her clothes soaked through, her hair plastered to her face. Yet with every turn of the wheels came a heartbeat of resolve. "I am choosing myself." She steered straight toward River Street Suites, the place where it all began. Though rain stung her eyes and her arms ached from forcing the wheelchair up the old stone slope, Camille did not stop. The image of Maya and Caleb was her guiding light. When the candy shop door swung open, the chime rang out like a prayer answered. Inside the quiet space, Camille saw Caleb and Maya sitting at the old table, their faces marked with sorrow. Maya was the first to cry out, rushing forward to throw her arms around Camille, ignoring her drenched clothes. "I knew it. I knew you'd come back." Caleb stood, draping his thick coat around Camille's shoulders. He looked into her radiant yet weary eyes and whispered, "God, Camille, what have you done? You've chosen." Camille lifted her gaze, her lips trembling but her eyes resolute. "Yes, I've chosen. I choose you, and I choose Maya. No matter what my father does, I will not live in that golden cage any longer." Outside, thunder cracked through the night. But inside the small candy shop, 3 souls had found one another. Like 3 broken pieces of wood that finally fit together, forming something whole and new. The candy shop door burst open, the bell chiming like a warning toll. Wind and rain swept in, scattering the sweet smell of caramel into a strange, whirling storm. Standing at the threshold was William Walker, his expensive Italian suit soaked through, gray-streaked hair plastered to his forehead. Yet his gray-blue eyes still blazed like 2 torches. "Camille!" his voice thundered, so stern it stunned the few remaining customers in the shop. "Enough. You're coming home now." Camille flinched, but quickly gripped the arms of her wheelchair tighter. Caleb stepped half a pace forward as though to shield her. And then Maya Monroe, only waist-high to William, suddenly stood in front, her bright eyes shimmering yet resolute. "You're mean. You made Miss Camille cry. Daddy says family means being there, not just throwing money. You don't do that. You only make her sad." Her words pierced straight through William's cold armor. He faltered for a moment, but then quickly roared, "The child knows nothing." "I am her father. I know what's best for her," Camille shouted back, her voice trembling but sharp as a blade. "No! You've never seen me. Since the accident, you've only seen this wheelchair, as if it were your failure. But Caleb and Maya, they see me, a person, not a broken project." William's fists clenched, his breathing harsh. He wanted to answer, but his throat locked. He saw Camille's eyes ablaze, not the dim light of a crippled girl, but the fierce fire of someone ready to fight for herself. Caleb stepped forward, his voice calm but weighty. "Mr. Walker, I have nothing to take from Camille. All I have are these hands, hands that lost a wife, that raised a daughter with every piece of wood. If you think I came to Camille for money, then you are wrong. The only thing I want is to walk beside her, to keep living from the pieces we have left." William looked at Caleb's calloused hands, then at his daughter. The daughter he had abandoned within the very walls of his opulent home. A storm of conflict raged within him. He wanted to believe he was right, that he was protecting Camille. But deep inside, another voice whispered, "Or am I only protecting my own fear?" Camille brushed the rain from her face, her voice choked yet resolute. "You can destroy Caleb's workshop. You can crush anyone who stands in your way. But you cannot destroy the truth. I love them. I need them. And if you cannot accept that, then I would rather lose the Walkers than lose myself." The room fell silent. Rain hammered against the windows like drums. William staggered, his eyes wavering between fury, pain, and despair. He could not change in an instant, could not shed the armor of power he had worn his entire life. But a crack had appeared across his face. For the first time, the icy mask of the powerful CEO had begun to fracture, and that very crack would decide everything in the next moment. The sound of rain outside slowly softened. Inside River Street Suites, the atmosphere hung heavy like a taut rope. William Walker stood motionless, his clothes drenched, his eyes wavering between fury and helplessness. He looked at his daughter in her wheelchair, more steadfast and radiant than ever, then at Caleb Monroe, the man with nothing but calloused hands and an honest heart. Just as he was about to speak, Maya Monroe stepped forward again. The little girl lifted her young face, eyes brimming with tears yet full of resolve, and her small but steady voice rang out, "You may be Miss Camille's father, but you're not there for her. My daddy lost my mommy, but he never left me alone." The innocent words fell like a hammer against the iron armor William had worn for so many years. His shoulders trembled. A memory surfaced. Camille, 6 years old, running through the mansion's hallways clutching a broken doll, saying, "Daddy, fix this for me." But he had barked back, "I'm busy. Ask the nanny." William pressed a hand to his head, slowly walking to a nearby chair and collapsing into it. His face revealed weariness and age. His voice broke, stripped of its commanding tone. "I never knew what to do. When your mother died, I buried myself in work. I thought money could replace love. But when you had the accident, I felt powerless. And I ran. Camille, I turned you into a failed project instead of a daughter. I was wrong." Camille wheeled closer, placing her trembling hand on his. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but her voice was firm. "I don't need money, or the best doctors, or this mansion. I just need you. I just need you to see me, the way Daddy Caleb sees Maya. If you want to start again, we can, one day at a time." Caleb stepped forward, his voice deep but steady. "Mr. Walker, I could never replace you. I only want to walk beside Camille. But if you're willing, we can do what no one thinks possible. Rebuild a family from broken pieces." William looked at Caleb's rough hands, then back at his daughter. He squeezed Camille's hand, his shoulders trembling. "One day at a time. I will try." 1 year later, River Street Suites shone brighter than ever. White ribbons wrapped around the door, fresh flowers adorned every table. Today was not only Camille's 23rd birthday, it was her wedding day. The narrow aisle down the shop was lined with a carpet, wide enough for Camille's wheelchair. She wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to embrace her figure with both softness and pride. Beside her, William Walker walked slowly, his hand on his daughter's shoulder. His eyes were red, his voice a whisper. "My daughter, you are beautiful. Your mother would be so proud." Camille squeezed his hand and softly replied, "And I am proud that you came back." At the end of the aisle, Caleb stood waiting, his suit simple, but his eyes brimming with love. Maya, in a yellow dress, acted as the little bridesmaid, scattering sunflower petals. The candy shop, the place where it all began, now bore witness to a new beginning. The vows rose, simple yet profound. "Caleb, I promise to always see you, even your cracks. I promise to push the chair when you're tired, lift you when you're weak, and love you when the world turns away. Camille, I promise to love you and Maya as the family I always dreamed of. I promise never to let a day go by without choosing us." As they shared their kiss, applause erupted, and Maya shouted joyfully, "Yay! Now I have a mommy." Months later. In a hospital room at Memorial Health University Medical Center, Camille cradled a newborn baby boy. Beside her, Caleb held her hand. while William took the child in his arms for the first time, his hands trembling. "His name is Samuel William Monroe," Caleb said, his eyes turning toward him. "Samuel, in memory of Sarah's grandfather. And William, in memory of you, the man who learned again how to be a father and a grandfather." William wept, tears streaming down his cheeks, but this time not from helplessness. These were tears remade, like fractured wood carefully mended, stronger and more beautiful than before. Camille looked around the room, Caleb smiling, Maya beaming beside her baby brother, and her father, a man who had finally learned to sit, to stay, to be present. She remembered the wish she had once made on a lonely birthday. "I just wish not to be alone anymore." Now, that wish was not only fulfilled, it had blossomed into a family rebuilt, from loss, from sorrow, from cracks. And it was those very cracks that had made love whole. Perhaps family is not always built from power or wealth, but from those who choose to stay, even when we think we've already fallen apart. The story of Camille, Caleb, Maya, and William shows us that cracks are not the end. They are the very place where love and hope begin to grow. If you believe that even from loss and pain, people can still rebuild a home, then leave a like for this video. And don't forget to subscribe to True Tale Time so you won't miss the heartfelt stories and deep lessons we will share with you. See you in the next video, where every sorrow can become a new beginning, and every crack can turn into an irreplaceable beauty.